first screen. This is what we've been talking about for the last 3 weeks. I told you this is ironclad as far as any literary document. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be a textbook that you're using in school. It could be a biography you're reading. It could be an article in the New England Journal of Medicine. It does not matter. Something literary has to be able to be authenticated. When you say you read this somewhere, it doesn't mean that it's legitimate. I'm just going to tell you something, a fact, okay? People are crazed about nutrition and exercise today. They're crazed about it, okay? I want you to know that of all the books written on exercise and nutrition, 95% have incorrect material in it. 95%, it's a big number. So just because something's written doesn't mean it's true. It's true. So I'm trying to give you something to defend. It's a beautiful thing to have faith. You can't please God without it. But the Bible also says where to defend it. It says that. And you can't defend it by just going, well, I prayed and I got this answer. That's ridiculous. I'm just here to tell you. So we're doing this. God is doing this to help you to be able to defend your faith. It's not doing this just to get through a service or fill in time. This is going to be so important in the days to come. More important than you ever even imagined. Because even some people who can't defend their faith will start to doubt what they believe. Sadly enough, it's going to happen. In Matthew 24, in the end days, it says, even the elect will be deceived. So we went over internal evidence already. We went over external evidence already. And we gave you plenty of things to chew on and to study. And last week we went over the most important bibliographical evidence. What we're going to move on to now, you can keep the screen on there for a minute, is prophetic evidence. Now, this is something that is unique to the Bible as a literary document. There's no book, no textbook prophesies or foretells the future. No textbook. I mean, it's unique to this book. And just to let you know, 26% of this book is foretelling. That's huge. That's a massive amount of scripture. I could see if there was just a few verses about the future. Or even you say, well, 1% of it. But no, 26%, that's tremendous. So to just go, well, I'm not interested in prophecy is crazy. That's like saying I'm not interested in 1/4 of the Bible. It's crazy, right? Now, some people get a little too interested in eschatology. I've met them that have studied. I've met some of these guys. They've studied their whole life, and they know the day that Yeshua is returning, even though Yeshua said, I don't know the day. So, wow, you want to talk about impressive. But with that being said, I want to tell you there are 3 ways. You might come up with more. I don't really believe so. There are 3 ways to determine future events. If you want to know what's going to happen in the future, there's 3 ways. One is superstition. And there's plenty of that out there, and I'm going to explain it a little bit. I'm just giving you a highlight. 2 is science. Science does extrapolate through experiment and determine trends, future trends. And then 3 is biblical prophecy. Those are the 3 ways. Now, of course, you're like, Rabbi, I get it. I know where this is going. Yeah, you do know this is going, but you don't necessarily know how to defend it. You want the millennial version, right? Just give me a verse and let me get out of here. It's a sad state of affairs when we could sing songs for like 9 hours, but we can't read the Bible more than 10 minutes. Very sad state of affairs, Superstition is the occult. It's tea leaves, tarot cards, palm reading, and horoscopes. Now, there was a great institute. I don't know about it anymore because it's run by a guy, Hank Hanegraaff, and I don't know him. I know he's had a lot of controversy, but when Dr. Walter Martin ran the Christian Research Institute, I did a lot of study back in, the late 80s. And he would expose Jehovah's Witnesses and Mormons and and get deeply in the occult. According to all their research, now you know the occult has power, right? It's not just trickery. It's legitimacy. There's power. You've heard of a familiar spirit? A lot of people don't know what a familiar spirit is. They just throw it out there, just like they don't know what a religious spirit is, sadly enough. And I'm not being condescending. I'm just saying that they use these terms like legalism and a religious spirit when it doesn't apply. And sadly enough, they show how little they know about that. A familiar spirit, familiaris, from the Latin, is a servant. So these people that communicate, necromancers with the dead, they believe they have a servant that they use that serves them to communicate with the dead, when in reality it's Satan using them to infiltrate your tabernacle. It's just the opposite. The occult is right 5% of the time. 5% of the time, that means they're wrong 95% of the time. Now, if I know a lot of you probably have 401ks and savings, if you came to me and I was your financial counselor and I said, I want you to know something, you got a 5% chance of making money. "95% chance you're going to lose, but I'm right 5% of the time." How fast are you going to leave my office? But people still consult the occult. They really do. Believers. Yeah. Now let me show you a verse. This is right out of the Torah, the first 5 books in the Bible, Deuteronomy 18:10. And God says to Moses to tell his people, all he has is this people right now. There's no Gentiles in the faith. It's this Hebrew clan that he chose to be his witnesses and to showcase the world who he is. And he's giving them rules to live by in the kingdom, because the kingdom has rules. You know, Burger King has rules. Every place has rules because it maintains order and it protects us. We need rules. Otherwise, it's chaos. And people get hurt when things are chaotic. So this is one of the rules. He says, there must not be found among you anyone who makes his son or daughter pass through the fire, a diviner, a soothsayer, an enchanter, or sorcerer. So this is not something new. Dionne Warwick didn't start this with Psycho Friends Network. This has been around since the beginning of time, because Satan has been around since the beginning of time, and Satan runs the occult. This term, I really want to talk about diviners, soothsayers, and enchanters. However, I'm obligated, since it's up there, to tell you, and you probably know this already, passing through the fire means sacrificing your children to Molech. And I could prove it to you in Leviticus 18:21, which is a book also part of the Torah, obviously. Leviticus meaning laws. It says you are not to let any of your children be sacrificed to Molech, thereby profaning the name of your God. Molech was a god that was found in Israel because it was a god of the Ammonites and the Canaanites. And they would make images of these gods. And the image of Molech it's awful. This huge statue. And it had brass arms upright, and people would sacrifice their children. They would light the arms on, heat them up to thousands of degrees, and put their children in the arms, and they would slide into the belly of Molech alive. I know it's crazy, but just on a side note, you know, in America we've killed 62 million babies since Roe v. Wade. In fact, today 3,900 babies will be exterminated. Today. So we changed the names to protect the guilty. Like it used to be adultery. Now it's an affair. You see what Satan's doing? It's just an affair. I just had a fling. A fling. It used to be homosexuality. Now it's gay. It's happy. It used to be bearing false witness. Now I just stretched the truth. Satan's good at what he does. Yeah. Me and him are going to go to war today. Now, it's crazy to know this, but if you look in your Bibles, don't look now, but I'll give you scriptures to study. 1 Kings 11:4 through 11, it says that King Solomon sacrificed his children to Molech. How'd that happen? He married wives outside the faith. And, Sally, can we please? You're gonna be careful where you pitch your tents. You're a product of your environment. There's no way around it, guys. I'm telling you right now. 10 of your friends smoke crack. You're smoking crack. The crazy thing is in 2 Kings 21:6, it says that King Manasseh sacrificed his child to Molech. In 2 Chronicles 28:1 through 4, it states that another king, King Ahaz, sacrificed to Molech as well. They revered him as a father. It's awful. And they believed that if they sacrificed their firstborn, their best, then they would have more fertility. They'd be blessed with more children. And of course, nothing's new under the sun, guys. The God of Mammon is still with us. In fact, he's more with us today than he ever was. Micah talked about the greed in Israel. There's more greed today than ever. You got people starving and you got billionaires. Now, I believe in the capital system. I believe that you work hard in America. You go to school. You can get free schools. You can make something of yourself. Anybody can do it with hard work. But the disparity right now is crazy. But a socialist system is poison. It's inherently poison. Some antagonists to our faith, they will say, what about Abraham and Isaac? What about Abraham and Isaac? Didn't your God tell Abraham? Guys, do you think that God was going to let Abraham? It says right in the Bible, it was just a test of his faith. God, our God is so about life that in the time of the Pharaoh and the Exodus, when the Egyptian handmaids and midwives lied to Pharaoh and said, when we get to the Hebrew homes, these women are so zaftig, they're so powerful and strong, they give birth before we get there, so we can't, and they hide the baby, we can't take the baby boys and throw them in the Nile. They blatantly lied. God bless them. Why? Because their lie was to protect life. Our God, your God, is a God of life. And life is the most precious thing to him. Just so you know, we'll move on real quick, but just so you know, let me state the record in Jeremiah 32:35. This is what it says. Let me get to it. Sometimes God will throw stuff at me in the morning, and I have to just deal with it. It says, they built high places for Baal, which are in Ben Hinnom Valley. You know Ben Hinnom Valley? The valley of Hinnom on the south side of Israel. Do you know the word Gehinnom? That's how Yeshua spoke. He spoke Hebrew. And Gehinnom was the valley of hell. Why did he call that the valley of hell? Because they used to sacrifice their children to Molech in the Ben Hinnom Valley. And then it became a place where it was so detestable to the children of Israel that they burned garbage and the fire never went out. You got the connection now? It's very important to connect the dots. Very important to connect the dots. It says they built high places of Baal in the Ben Hinnom Valley to burn alive their sons and daughters to Molech. It says it right there in Jeremiah. Something I did not order them to do, it never even entered my mind. God is saying, don't even think. How dare you? I'm a God of life, and I've come to bring life and an abundancy of life. So just so you know, that's what that means, but that's not what I'm going to focus on, even though this has to do with the occult. What I want you to see is that in Jeremiah 18:10, Israel was forbidden to have any contact with anyone who claimed to communicate with the unseen world. Forbidden. Highly, they were to be stoned, taken out. The cancer had to be eradicated. A diviner is one who practices witchcraft. A soothsayer is a false prophet. An enchanter is one who interprets omens. And this includes palm readers, fortune tellers, and astrologers. And a sorcerer is a witch doctor. They're legit. I've met them. They have some crazy power. In fact, when I was in Kenya, after I met one, they called me in Kenya Mzungu Mafrika, which is, to be honest with you, it's the highest compliment they could pay a white man. It means white African. And they could tell if you're there for your own or you're there because you really care. And I walked into this shop, and there was a bunch of people there, and Bernadette knows the story, and I wanted to get something authentic. I wanted to wear it while I was there authentic. I wanted to really connect. You know, I slept in their muddy huts and the whole thing. And then I yelled to everybody when I walked in the store. I wanted to say Mzungu Mafrika, but I pronounced it wrong, and I said, Mugunga Mafrika, and everybody screamed and yelled. And my friend said, you just told them you were a witch doctor. And that was the end of my talking in Swahili. That was it. I wouldn't even say Hakuna Matata after that. I thought, I'll mess that up. But this is serious stuff. Listen, tragically, Satanism, demons, and the occult are dark, sinister realities. It is real. I've seen it. I've seen demoniacs. I've spoke against them. I'm not being a big shot. God allowed me to not read about these things, to see these things in reality. Okay? They're not tricks. One of the signs that we are nearing the close of this age is the widespread interest in witchcraft, astrology, and other forms of the occult. It's a telltale sign for me. Thousands, even in the faith, consult their horoscopes. I don't even let fortune cookies come to my table at the Chinese restaurant. Some attend seances, or they seek to communicate with their deceased loved ones. The Bible repeatedly warns against such practices. I'll just give you the verses. They're not up here. Leviticus 19:31, Leviticus 26, Leviticus 20:27, 2 Chronicles 33:6, Isaiah 8:19, Isaiah 8:20, Jeremiah 10:2, and just in case some of you are going, well, that's the Old Testament, Galatians 5:19 and 20. Consulting the occult is basically saying, God, you're taking too long, and I need answers now. Satan, help me. Rabbi, you're crazy. You're crazy. I'm not crazy. I'm telling you like it is. I'm going on record and telling you like it is. So when I get before God, he doesn't say to me, why did you dance around that? Why did you dress that up? Look, guys, there's a ton of mega churches in the United States now where you could have a good time. There's ATMs you can give your money to. You could have popcorn, the music's unbelievable, smoke machines. You could have a good old time. I'm not telling you not to go. I'm just telling you, I took some of my friends from Africa and India there, and they cried. They cried. Going to a psychic is very dangerous. It will bring demonic spirits into your home. With every visit, you will become more attached and fall deeper into darkness. Sometimes when you say about a kid or something, you go, I don't know what's gotten into them. You don't? Even if you think it's harmless and it's good, remember the devil is a liar, and nothing from darkness is good. Nothing. That's one of the things that you can't see. God brings good out of all things. Not that thing. How urgent and up to date are the warnings of Scripture? This was written 3,300 years ago, and it's as true this very day. So, my advice is, let's not play around with something that become a kiss of death. Okay? So, should we consult the occult to determine the future? Let's move on. Number 2 is science. Science, I'm not a scientist, but I have friends that are, and we talk a lot. Science makes observations by deduction. They deduct laws via experiment. That's what they do. They experiment, and then they extrapolate trends of the present to determine the future. I'm not talking about science as far as curing disease. I'm talking about predicting the future. We're talking about predicting the future, foretelling future events. That's our discussion today. Science, according to all the research I've ever done, is 25% right. Now, that's a lot better than the occult. But if I sat down with you and I was your financial counselor and I said, well, I want you to know, I get it right 25% of the time. You have a 1 in 4 chance of making money with me. So I have a hard time trusting science to determine prophetic events. Okay? It's just not my thing. But this is what I want to get into with you, because I think it's going to expose some things and expose some lies of the enemy. Most believers think, I don't know how this happened, that science is an enemy of the Word of God. They just think one has nothing to do with the other. If you're a scientist, you can't believe in God. If you believe in God, you can have nothing to do with science. Anybody know what I'm saying? It's just been taught. Non-believers would have us convinced that science has proved that God does not exist. Nothing could be further from the truth. In fact, science proves that God does exist. It's just the opposite. It just takes the scientists longer to make the discoveries that God already created. Okay? Look at Isaiah 40:22. Just a few scriptures. We're not going to get into science too much, but a little bit. And then we'll get into biblical prophecy. Isaiah 40:22. He who sits above the circle of the earth, for whom its inhabitants appear like grasshoppers, stretches out the heavens like a curtain, spreads them out like a tent to live in. This teaches the roundness of the earth. Now, I don't study too many things that are false. I don't have time. I have to stick with the truth. But people tell me that there's a whole society of people now who have proven the earth is flat. The ancient people believed that the world was a flat disk. That's what they believed. Now, you can laugh at that, but that's all they had. We didn't have the instrumentation, the technology that we have today. They believed that it was a flat disk supported by a giant or an animal, like a buffalo or a turtle. I guess these people that believe in the flat earth are just being retro. But we have evidence. And it was just very kind of God to write this in 750 BC. We didn't really need the evidence, but it's okay. Columbus didn't fall off the earth. Sad. And let me just throw this out there. What if it is? Is that going to change your fate, your life? Okay, listen to me. If you believing this unsupported, non-scholarship, but if you want to believe that and you tell me, Rabbi, I just want you to know something. Since I've decided that the earth is flat, I am so much more obedient to God. I am so much more kind to my wife and children. I am so much more charitable. Heck, I'm even thinking about tithing. I know most of you have thought about it. Good thought. Then the earth may be flat. I'm with you. I don't care if you tell me if I stand on my head, I'm more obedient. My advice would be then stand on your head. But the fact of the matter is, these morons, these idiots are spending a lot of time. Where's their ministry? When's the last time you helped somebody in need? Golly jeepers. How do you do that? How could you be so involved in study and so blind to serving others? I don't know, Lord. I don't know. Job 26:7-9 says, He stretches, that's He, the Lord, the north over the chaos and suspends the earth on nothing. He binds up the water in his thick clouds, yet no cloud is torn apart by it. He shuts off the view of his throne by spreading his cloud across it. He speaks here about the suspension of, this is the oldest book in the Bible, by the way. He speaks about the suspension of the earth in space, true. The evaporation and precipitation cycle, true. The density of the clouds, true. And the cycle of light and dark, true. All proven scientifically. The ancient Greeks, they felt that rivers were fed by underground ocean water. Not true. There's springs, but they're contained. And the idea thankfully perished in the 18th century. Just to give you an idea. What about sanitary practices to protect health? That was given to us in the Torah. The Torah given to the nation of Israel included regulations, let's say, for washing after touching a dead body. Look at Leviticus 11:28. And whoever picks up its carcass is to wash his clothes and be clean until evening. These are unclean for you. The body's decomposing. It has already disease. It's disease-laden. I mean, there are people washing their hands with Purell just to get out of a bathroom. You ever see it? They're like getting out of the bathroom with their elbows now. You can't be that uptight because you have to build immunities. You're putting your kids in a bubble. Don't you realize why they're getting ear infections all the time? Because their immune system that God gave is not strong enough because you keep sending in others to fight, and it says to the immune system, you don't have to fight. Just like how we baby our children. Don't worry about it. Mommy will take care of it. How long are you going to take care of it, Mommy? You can't helicopter parent. I mean, I realize that bicycle helmets are good today, but how did we survive? No seatbelts, no bicycle helmets, and no Purell. How did we do it? We didn't get sick as much. Go figure. What about quarantining those with infection diseases? That's not nice. No? I'll tell you what's not nice, when you bring your kid with green mucus into the children's area. Because then that single mom has to find somebody to watch her kid because that kid can't go to school and now she's behind on her rent. That's not nice. Look at Leviticus 13, 1 through 5. Adonai said to Moshe and Aaron, if someone develops on his skin a swelling, scab, or bright spot, which could develop into the disease Sara'at, that's not leprosy per se, it's a skin disease. He is to be brought to Aharon the Kohen or to one of his sons who are Kohanim, priests. The Kohen, the high priest, is to examine the sore on his skin. If the hair in the sore has turned white and the sore appears to go deep into the skin, and on and on and on, you're supposed to quarantine him. I just wanted you to see that, okay? Which is the right thing to do. It's not saying you can't be around people. It's protecting the people and letting the person heal. I couldn't have any visitors when I was in the hospital. I was too susceptible. It was very dangerous. It was life and death. This is wisdom. This isn't exclusion. This is God caring for us. This is God's providential care. This is love. And what about disposing of human waste safely? Deuteronomy 23:13. God thought of everything. You must include a trowel, like a spade, a shovel with your equipment if you're fighting and you're on the road. So when you relieve yourself, you ought to dig a hole first and afterwards cover your excrement. God thought of everything. Everything that's needed to procure and enhance life is in this book. Is it dangerous? I just about died because of it. Because my excrement went up my esophagus and down my trachea into my lungs. 50% of people die. 1 out of 2. I don't care who you are. You're dying. Half of you are dying. And the damage it's caused since then, who knows, man? Only God knows. That acid's like hydrochloric acid. It'll burn a hole in concrete. It burned out some of the lobes in my lungs. Who knows? By contrast, the same time this was given by God to the nation of Israel, an Egyptian remedy at the same time, look at this contrast, said that they should apply human excrement to an open wound. Now, did people believe that? Yes, because we didn't have the information and they didn't have the Torah. But sometimes, every week it changes. Coffee's bad for you, coffee's good for you. Eggs are bad for you, eggs are good for you. You know what it all depends on? How much those businessmen are willing to pay the lobbyists, to pay the manufacturer, to pay the lawmakers to say that. Yes. In the 1970s, they knew that sugar was a problem, but they went on this campaign, it's not sugar. It's low fat. People today that don't eat any carbohydrates, they're killing themselves. I don't care what you say. We weren't made to not eat grains. Will you lose weight? Sure. I know people that are running, they're 97 pounds. And their mantra is, there's still flesh on my bones. There's still flesh. There's supposed to be flesh on your bones. Because let me tell you something, sweet pea. Once you die, that weight really comes off. So they went on a campaign. Fat's the problem. Fat's not the problem. Saturated fat's the problem. Fat you need. You need it for your liver and other things to function in your body, other organs. So they said, low fat. That was the thing, 70s. Well, low fat items taste like cardboard. So what do you got to do to make something taste good? They lied, man. There's groups of doctors. You know how much Pepsi and Coke are paying them to do their research? Rabbi, it's not all like that. It's a lot like that. Wake up and smell the coffee. It's all about money and greed. They'll tell you anything. When Ford Motor Company knew that the Pintos on impact would blow up, did they say anything? Did they think about how did they sleep at night? Knowing that some mom with her 2 kids might just go up in flames. It would have cost billions. We can't say nothing until they were exposed. Watch out, believer. Satan will help you compromise. Oh, it's just it's no big deal. Little sins lead to major consequences. That I know. That I know. This is what it says in the very beginning of the Bible. See, this is what no scientist can explain. It says in Genesis 1:1, in the beginning. No matter how far they take it back, it's all chaos. There's no legitimacy to the theory of evolution anymore. The theory of evolution shoots itself in the foot. It doesn't recapitulate. You can't extrapolate. You can have different species, but you can't make one species into another. It's impossible. It's proven. And even if you grab a group and you separate and there's incest within that group, it loses information, not gains. It's weaker. So it shoots their theory that survival of the fittest. It speaks against it. And people still, well, I don't understand. It's not that hard to understand. It's very simple. They're just lying to us. You need the evidence to combat the lie. It says in the beginning, this is the only book in the universe that teaches us about creation. The only one. And because there's so much evidence to prove this is a legitimate literary document, I believe in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The universe had a beginning, which is in contrast to many ancient myths that describe the universe not as being created, but as being organized from existing chaos. Seriously? Think about how crazy that is. There's something called irreducible complexity. It's so complex that it's irreducible. You can't reduce it. How could something this magnificent, this intricate, come out of chaos? What? I know this saying we have, everything comes out in the wash. Don't worry, it'll work itself out. Really? How'd you lose that weight? Did it work itself out? Everything comes out in the wash. You know why it comes out in the wash? Because you turn on the wash machine, you put in detergent, and there's something in the center. You know what that thing is called? An agitator. Some of you guys should be very familiar with that because you agitate that. No, it's an agitator. That's why it comes out in the wash. I'll prove it to you. Go home, take some dirty clothes, throw it in. Don't put any detergent. Don't turn it on. See if it comes out in the wash. The Babylonians believed that the gods that gave birth to the universe came from 2 oceans. Another legend said that the universe came forth from a giant egg. And you still have brilliant men who are standing firm. And you know why they're standing firm? Let me tell you why I don't believe in atheism. I don't believe there's an atheist. I don't believe it. They work so hard at trying to disprove the existence of God. They work so hard. They work harder than people in the faith, which is sad, but that's a whole nother story. Why are they working so hard? I'll tell you why. They're mad at God. God took their little child. He ruined their life. They got hurt in church, and they're mad at God. You can't believe in the existence of something that you believe that doesn't exist. You can't put that much energy in it unless you are angry at it. The other side of the coin for me is that they know if they believe in God, they've got to come under his authority. And they will not come under his authority. They ain't coming under anybody's authority. Plus they know, I might have to clean this up. So it's easy to disprove it, and then they're free to do whatever they want. They could be their own God. That's what it's about. They have no proof. They have no legitimate proof whatsoever. They could talk and talk and talk and use their 7-syllable words, and they have no proof. A 5-year-old could shoot their theories in the foot. The antagonist to our faith, to the faith, as well as the general non-believing community, would have us believe that there are no scientists who believe in God. In the eyes of science, science has made a belief in God unnecessary. That's the world system. The world system is proving to you that you can be happy without God. Oftentimes, secular scientists look down their noses at those of us who believe in God, who believe in miracles, and who believe in creation. And they use supposed scientific facts to dispute our belief in the reality of God. However, all scientists do not reject the idea of God. There is and always has been those in the scientific community whose faith in God remained the foundation of their lives, even as they carried out their scientific research and discovery. I made a very short list, but this list is probably a list of scientists who are so profound and made the greatest scientific discoveries known to man. Devout believers. 1, Sir Francis Bacon. He was born 1561. He passed on 1626, and Sir Francis Bacon is usually considered the man primarily associated with the so-called scientific method in science, which is still being used today. The scientific method stressed observation and verification rather than philosophical conjecture. Philosophical conjecture is a fancy term. It's basically forming an opinion or a theory without evidence or proof, which is crazy. No evidence, no proof. He believed that God gave us 2 books to study, one being the Bible and the other being nature. This isn't a guy who showed up at church on Sunday morning just because it was the thing to do or religion was part of their life. I'm naming scientists who were devout, crazy believers, okay? Next, Johann Kepler. If you're in the scientific community, you would absolutely know him. Born 1571, died 1630. Johann Kepler is considered by many to be the founder of physical astronomy. He discovered the laws of planetary motion, and he established the discipline of celestial mechanics. I know this is a little bit above a lot of our pay grade, but this is the way it is. Some of his contributions to science are the fact that he conclusively demonstrated, you ready, the heliocentricity of the solar system. It just means that the sun is at the center. He devised the method of mapping star movement and contributed to the development of the calculus. Kepler was a Christian who studied in a seminary to be a priest. But the Lord told him, go into the scientific community. Some of you want to be priests. We don't need any more priests. We got too many. And we're losing like 3,000 a month. We need you guys in the marketplace, in the workplace, in the school place, in the home place. We need witnesses. We need you to shine their light. We don't need another person standing behind this. This is not what I wanted to do. I was so happy being out there. This sometimes takes away from me being out there. So at least let me reproduce myself. This was the furthest thing from my mind. Being a pastor was like, Kepler coined the phrase and the idea that research and discovery was thinking, this is a quote, God's thoughts after him. A motto adopted by many Christian scientists after him. You know Blaise Pascal, 1623 born, died 1662 young, one of the greatest philosophers. Pascal is considered the father of the science of hydrostatistics, the study of pressure fluids exert on other objects. Pascal had much to do with the development of calculus and the theory of probability and the invention of the barometer. He was a deeply, deeply convicted religious man who wrote much about his faith. He may be best known for what Christians call Pascal's wager, which asks in short why anyone would risk living as if there was no God. I'm mentioning the greatest scientists known to man, and these guys were brilliant. Okay? They could not talk in layman's terms like I would talk to you. They just couldn't do it. They were too brilliant. Everybody knows Sir Isaac Newton, 1642 to 1727. Who has not heard of Isaac Newton? He is credited with discovering the law of gravity, the 3 laws of universal motion, and his refinement of calculus into a comprehensive branch of mathematics. Newton was a devout Christian from his youth, and later in years he wrote much against atheism, and he defended the Christian faith often in public debate. Newton believed the Bible to authenticate itself better than any other historical record ever written. Wow. Samuel F.B. Morse, 1791 to 1872, you know. Morse is probably most clearly remembered for inventing the telegraph. I'm not talking about that fish wrapper that we have in town. However, he also invented the first camera in America and made the first photographic portrait. Morse was a man deeply, deeply, deeply devoted to God. In the first message sent over his newly invented telegraph in 1844, the message Morse sent was, quote, "What hath God wrought?" He lived his life dedicated to loving and serving God. Morse wrote these words shortly before he died. Look at this quote by F.B. Morse. "The nearer I approach the end of my pilgrimage, the clearer is the evidence of the divine origin of the Bible. The grandeur and sublimity of God's remedy for fallen man are more appreciated, and the future is illumined with hope and joy." Rabbi, why do you take time out to give us this before you talk about prophecy? Because I want you to see the lies. We've been lied to and lied to and lied to, especially in government-run schools. Just a couple more. I know this isn't the most exciting to you. I'm sorry, it excites me, so I'm excited. Louis Pasteur, 1822 born, died 1895. Pasteur was a giant in the discipline of medicine who was instrumental in developing the germ theory of disease, among many other significant contributions to the fields of chemistry and physics. His research helped develop vaccines against many diseases. If it wasn't for his discoveries, most of you wouldn't be sitting here. Pasteur also helped demolish the evolutionary theory of spontaneous generation. Pasteur also discovered, as do others now, when one stands up for their belief in biblical creation, secular, naturalistic scientists go on the attack. You know why most of us don't even want to go there? Because we don't want to fight. And we're not equipped. So how am I going to fight, Rabbi? I got my faith, I'm saved, that's all that's important. That is not all that's important, sweet pea. The Bible says, set apart Messiah as Lord of your life, always being prepared to give a hope for the defense that's in you. That's in your Bible. I don't understand it. Now, there's a lot of pastors that didn't go to seminary, so they don't even understand apologetics. But for a lot of mainline guys that went, they studied it. Why aren't they sharing it? That's an accusation. Okay. If the shoe fits, put it on. William Thompson, a.k.a. Lord Kelvin, 1824 to 1907. Kelvin established the scale of absolute temperatures so that such temperatures today are given in degrees Kelvin. He also established thermodynamics as a formal scientific discipline and formulated its first and second laws in precise terminology. These are brilliant, brilliant, brilliant men, devout, crazy believers. Kelvin believed that science affirmed the reality of creation. He was a devout and a humble Christian, even as he aggressively engaged in controversy over the age of the earth, denying Darwinism and upholding creation. Two more. Wernher von Braun, 1912, more up to date. 1977 he died. Von Braun was instrumental in the development of the German V-2 rocket before migrating to America. He directed U.S. guided missile development for several years and became the director of NASA. On the subject of space flight, he once wrote, and I'll quote, "An outlook through the peephole at the vast mysteries of the universe should only confirm our belief in the certainty of its creator." That should be belief, not belief. Last but not least, somebody who's still living today, Francis Collins. You might have heard of him. What about Angry Birds? Okay. 1950, still alive. He's the director of the Human Genome Project. Very important what they're discovering. He's publicly affirmed his belief in God over and over again. Collins has expressed the spiritual wonder of scientific research in these words: "When something new is revealed about the human genome, I experience a feeling of awe at the realization that humanity now knows something only God knew before." Yeah. Now, with all this discussion about all these scientific believers, all these brilliant men who absolutely believed and also fought the good fight of apologetics and had conclusive evidence as far as they were concerned, let's take a look at the science of probability. This is going to be the last part of this for today. We won't be able to go into too much. We'll have next week to do that. Science is a method of studying odds, right? It's called the science of probabilities. It's a mathematical study of situations of odds and possibilities. You flip a coin, you got a 1 in 2 chance of getting a head or a tail. Professor Peter Stoney, you know him? 1888, lived till 1980. He was the professor emeritus of mathematics. He's written about a lot of books. And astronomy at Pasadena College. He conducted a study in his book about probability called Science Speaks, one of his books. The purpose of the study in the book was to determine the odds of one man in history fulfilling all the messianic prophecies that were recorded in the Bible. Now, I lead a very boring life, so I added up those prophecies many years ago, and I came up with 333. Some other people, most people say, well, there's at least 300. But I came up with 333, you know? You can do your study, and if it's 331, we can arm wrestle you for who's right. I don't know. But the point is there's well over 300 messianic prophecies, future things that would have to happen in the future for somebody to claim to be the Messiah. And they're there. And they were written many years before Yeshua touched down, right? So he had to fulfill all 333, otherwise he can't claim to be the Messiah. So far, so good? Okay. Peter Stoner chose 8 out of the 333, and I'll tell you why in a minute. These are the ones he chose. Micah 5:2, the place of Messiah's birth. It says in Micah 5:2, but you, Bethlehem, house of bread, near Ephrat. Why do you say near Ephrat? There's 2 Bethlehems. That's how accurate it has to be. There's one in the Galilee and one down in Judah. So small among the clans of Yehuda. Very specific. This isn't Nostradamus. He's fortune cookie prophecy. Nonsense. Out of you will come forth to me the future ruler of Israel, Messiah, whose origins are far in the past. How could somebody's origins be in the past? I wasn't in the past. I came on the scene January 6, 1959, because he's talking about the Ancient of Days, talking about Messiah, the Son of God. Okay, by the way, just if you're keeping notes, the fulfillment of that is Luke 2:4, just in case you want to write that down. Okay, then we have the second prophecy in Daniel that Dr. Stoner chose, Daniel 9, 25, 26. Now, I added 26 as a bonus, so it's really a separate prophecy, but I just could not give you 25 without 26. This gives you the time of Messiah's birth and death. It says, know therefore and discern that 7 weeks of years will elapse between the issuing of the decree to restore and rebuild Jerusalem until an anointed prince comes, Messiah. It will remain built for 62 weeks of years. So you got 62 weeks of years and 7 weeks of years. I can't get into too much detail. It's 69 weeks of years, or 483 years from the time of the decree. The decree was Nehemiah 2:1, Anaxagoras. That was 445. Okay, so 445, 483 years going forward. But these will be troubled times, and they were. Then after the 62 weeks, Mashiach will be cut off. He'll be killed and have nothing. The people of the prince yet to come, the revised Roman Empire, will destroy the city, which they did. Titus did that. But his end will come with a flood, and desolations are decreed until the war is over, the final tribulation, the last week of sevens. You've got 69 sevens, but the prophecy is about 70 sevens, so we have 170 a period left, and that's the time of the tribulation. Okay? I know that's a lot to digest, but it's not as difficult as people make it sound. That's the problem. They make it sound like you've got to be some expert to read the Bible. You don't. You believe that too. It's a lie. It's a lie. So, the time of Messiah's birth, if you want to get more into it, there's a book written by the head of the Scotland Yard in 1895, Sir Robert Anderson. The book is called The Coming Prince. He does a phenomenal job of giving us detailed calculations, because you got to realize you got to allow for leap years. You can't just give it a 365-day year, because they're on the lunar calendar 360 days. What about the errors in the calendar? What about the change from BC to AD? There's no 0 year. So he took all these into place, and it shows that the 669 prophetic years end precisely on the day Yeshua walked in Nisan 10 into Jerusalem, and Nisan 14 he was taken out. The fulfillment of this, Mark 9:12. Then he took Isaiah 7:14. So this is our third. He took 8, how many prophecies? 8. Manner of Messiah's birth. I'll move on. Isaiah 7:14. Therefore Adonai himself will give you a sign, the young woman. A young woman. There's 2 words for young woman, maiden, in the Bible. Alma, which is used nowhere except here, and Bethulah. Hebrew, we're reading the Old Testament. The first being a young woman of unsullied reputation, a virgin. The other one is a maiden living with her parents, not necessarily a virgin, okay? They use Alma here, which specific. Does it really mean virgin? Yes. That's why the word's only used here. The fulfillment, Matthew 1:23, that's not important, but I just want to throw that in there, okay? Zechariah 11:12, 13, we have the betrayal of Messiah. This is prophesying about Judas. I said to them, if it seems good to you, give me my wages. If not, don't. So they weighed out 30 silver shekels. Said, this was if an oxen bore into your slave, they put 30 shekels of silver as the life of a slave. That's what they paid for Yeshua. Meanwhile, instead of an oxen boring into a slave, they bore into the slave to free all this oxen. Hallelujah. Somebody say it for God's sakes. So they weighed out my wages, 30 silver shekels. That is 12 ounces of silver, not much. Concerning that princely sum, they're making fun. Sarcastic, princely sum. At which they valued me. Adonai said, throw it into the treasury. That happened, right? So I took the 30 silver shekels and threw them into the treasury in the house of Adonai. That was fulfilled in Matthew 26:15 and Matthew 27:3-10. So then we have the betrayal of Messiah. Next prophecy that Stoner took, Psalm 22:16-18. Conditions surrounding Messiah's death. It says in Psalm 22:16, dogs are all around me. Who are the dogs? The Gentiles. Prior to that, he talks about the Jews in the verses preceding. A pack of villains closing on me like a lion at my hands and feet. I can count every one of my bones, remember? They didn't break his legs. While they gaze at me and gloat, they divide my garments. For my clothing, they throw dice. Fulfillment, Matthew 27:35, the conditions surrounding Messiah's death. Three more, we're done. Next, Zechariah 12:10, the manner of Messiah's death. Okay? I will pour out on the house of David and on those living in Jerusalem a spirit of grace and prayer, and they will look to me, whom they pierced. That's the way he's going to die. It's prophesying the way he's going to die. He's going to be crucified. You know, and that was way back. And by the way, crucifixion wasn't even around back then when Zechariah prophesied it. And the Jews never crucified, only the Romans could. So this is a pretty deep prophecy. They will mourn for him as one mourns for an only son. They'll be in bitterness on behalf like the bitterness for a firstborn. Fulfillment, John 19:37. Then, next to the mockery of Messiah, Psalm 22:7-8. Remember, all who see me jeer at me. They sneer and they shake their heads. He committed himself to Adonai, so let him rescue him. Let him set him free if he takes such delight in him. Fulfillment of this, Luke 23:35, Matthew 27:39, and verse 43. Last but not least, the type of burial of Messiah. Isaiah 53:9. Hang in. I know it's a little cerebral, but there's more to our faith than just rah-rah, sis, boom, bah. Jesus paid it all. He was given a grave among the wicked. In his death, he was with a rich man, although he had done no violence and he said nothing. By the way, my life would be much easier if I just came in and rah-rah, sis, boom, bah. I could tell jokes with the best of them. It'd be easier. I could just hang out Friday night. I wouldn't even have to pray. I mean, I don't know where you're going after this, but I got to get ready for Shavuot. He was given a grave among the wicked. In his death, he was with a rich man, although he had done no violence and had said nothing deceptive. This was the type of burial fulfillment, Matthew 27:57-60. Now, here's the end. The compound probability of one man fulfilling just those 8 I mentioned. How many did we have? 333, over 300. Just 8 being fulfilled by one man is 1 in 10 to the 17th power. Now, that doesn't mean anything to us unless we're mathematicians, right? Okay, 1, it's 1, like flipping a coin is 1 in 2, 1 in 100 quadrillion. We're not mathematicians, so 100 quadrillion doesn't mean anything. So this is what I did for you. I put just something that can give you a little idea of numbers. Real simple. Can you put that chart with the 1 million seconds is 12 days? No big deal. Count a million seconds, it's 12 days. Now, once you go to 1 billion seconds, it's 32 years. Once you go to 1 trillion seconds, it's 31,689 years. You know why they call it exponential? 1 quadrillion seconds. This is 1 in 100 quadrillion. 1 quadrillion seconds is 31,709,792 years. Now you get an idea of numbers a little bit, right? Just a little bit. You don't have to be a mathematician to see where I'm going with this. To understand this number, 100 quadrillion, this is what Peter Stoner did. I didn't do it. He did it. I'm just giving you what he did. 100 quadrillion silver dollars. If you take that many silver dollars, 100 quadrillion silver dollars, you lay them across the face of Texas, which is 267,000 square miles, 100 quadrillion silver dollars would cover the entire state 2 feet deep. This gets real. I mean, this is so full of juice. Next, mark one of the 100 quadrillion silver dollars. Your choice. Any one you want. It could be in East Texas, West Texas, Central Texas, doesn't matter. In Dallas, San Antonio, wherever you want. Mark one of them. And put it on the bottom, put it in the middle, it doesn't matter. Then blindfold someone. Take him up in a helicopter. Let him parachute any way he wants, his call. Just go back and forth, north and south, east and west. Keep going until he goes, okay, here. Let him parachute, and he has to take his time because he's only going to get one pick. And wherever he touches down, what do you think the chances of him picking the silver dollar with the red mark on it? 1 in 100 quadrillion. That's the probability. It's math. He would have a 1 in 100 quadrillion shot. Now you say 0 because basically, yeah, it's basically almost impossible. So it's almost impossible for one man to fulfill 8 prophecies. What about one man fulfilling 333? Guys, I'm telling you, you have so much evidence. It's a sad state of affairs. So you know what? I'm doing my part. God asked me to share this. By the way, just an announcement. People are wondering if I got banned from Twitter. I did not get banned from Twitter. One morning, God said, get off Twitter, and I didn't ask questions. God told me to go on Twitter, and I went. I had no desire to go on social media. I'm not on anything else. I went because he said you could put things out there, after your meditation. And then he told me to get off, and I got off. Why, God? Why am I asking why? He must have a reason. What do I care? And it was good. Yeah, it's good. So we went over the occult. We went over science. And now what we're going to go into next week heavily is prophecy. We're going to get into things like the rebirth of Israel, which is, it's such a phenomenal miracle that there's no military strategist in their right mind that will study it. They won't study it. I know generals, they won't study it. They just go, there's nothing to study. There's nothing to glean. I mean, you've seen these videos against all odds. It's way more than against all odds. I mean, forgive me, it's a great title, but it's so much more than that. So we have the occult, we have science, and the only other way to determine future events is through Scripture. Biblical prophecy. Divinely inspired predictions. Look at the word just so you have something to bite into. Prophecy. Now, a lot of people think prophecy, right? You're Christians a long time. Rabbi, prophecy is predicting future events. Not exactly. I don't want to be difficult. You're like, Rabbi, you're always difficult. You always got to show us up. You always got to tell us so we feel like idiots. No. This is my job. My job isn't to make you feel bad. My job is to help disciple you. That's my job. Matthew 28 says it's a great commission. I feel greatly honored that I get an opportunity to raise you maybe in the faith. Who the heck do you think you are? Nobody, man. God told me to get off Twitter, I'm off Twitter. He tells me to leave this, I leave this. Nobody. And I don't have a corner on the market. There's other great pastors out there discipling people. But this is my job. Forthtelling or foretelling. Isn't that the same? No. Forthtelling is declaring a message to others. The prophet spoke way more about the present than the future. Way more. So it's not just foretelling, but we're going to focus on the foretelling part of prophecy, okay? Telling something before it happens. Telling something before it happens. There are approximately 8,352 prophetic scriptures in our Bible. With 31,103 verses, that means 27% of our Bible predicts future events. It contains predictive material, which is far beyond the scope of human speculation. Far beyond. Thus far, occult has been right 5% of the time. Science has been right 25% of the time. God's been right 100% of the time. Now, if you were to come to me as a person who wanted some financial counseling, and I'd said, you got a 100% shot at making money with me. I've made money 100% of the time. I have not failed, not 100% of the time. I've made money for my clients. You're going to sit around and listen to my spiel, right? Okay, God's been right 100% of the time. 100% of the time. Okay? And how could this be? We'll leave with a few verses, and then you're free to go. Okay? I'll tell you how it can be. Isaiah 41, 22, 24 says it like this. Bring out those idols. Have them foretell the future for us. Tell us about past events so we can reflect on them and understand their consequences. Or tell us about events yet to come. State what will happen in the future so that we can know you are God's. At least do something. Say something, I'm giving up on you. Man, I got nothing to do with idols, man. I got nothing to do with all that junk. Nothing. 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 You pray about everything. Yes. Pray about everything. Yes. Either good or bad, anything. Make us awestruck. Make us fearful. You can't. Was God sarcastic? Yes. Yes, sometimes you need a sarcastic slap in the head to wake you up. Yes. It's not all fine and yes, ma'am, yes, sir. It doesn't work like that in real life. You know why you can't? Because you are less than nothing. Less than nothing? Would it be enough to say you're nothing? See, you're less than nothing. You're worse because people are actually believing in you, which makes you less than nothing. Whoever chooses you is an abomination. What? So it's not just the idol's fault, it's the person's fault for believing. God challenges the people to produce idols which can predict things to come. Isaiah 42, 8, 9. God says, I am Adonai, that's my name. I yield my glory to no one else. Don't you be playing your instrument and pointing up. I don't need you to point up. We're not clapping for you. I am Adonai, that is my name. I yield my glory to no one else, nor my praise to any idol. See how the former predictions come true, and now new things do I declare. Before they sprout, I tell you about them. God says his past predictions have come to pass, and now he's revealing what's coming in the future. Last but not least, Isaiah 46, 8 through 11. Remember this and stand firm. Keep it in mind, you rebels. Remember things that happened at the beginning long ago, that I am God. There is no other. I am God. There's none like me. At the beginning, I announced the end, proclaim in advance things not yet done. You see, it's an amazing thing. When you're at a parade, and, living in New York City, we've been to a few parades. I mean, come to my house, you'll see a parade. But when you're standing at the parade, right, and you're watching the floats, what do you see? All of you human beings, you see everything linear. You see something coming, and then when it passes, it's in the past. And then something comes, it's the present, but you don't know what's coming. God don't see like that, man. He's like Ariel. He sees it all. It's all the same to him. No timeline for the Lord. I call a bird of prey from the east, the man I intended from a distant country. I have spoken, will bring it about. I have made a plan. I will fulfill it. Let's stand together. Next week is my favorite part. Week 5, I've been waiting for this for 5 weeks. Because it is ridiculous prophecies that God made. And one of the greatest proofs that God exists is the nation of Israel. You have no better proof. When King Louis was on his deathbed, you know who was attendant in France? Blaise Pascal. And he wanted to believe, but he was no phony, thank God. He didn't make some ridiculous profession of faith, run up, get a bath, and then live his own life. So he wanted to believe. Blaise was his friend, his confidant. He said, Blaise, I want to have the faith you have. I'm dying. I'm dying. Blaise, tell me something, man. Give me something so I don't go into this black hole. Blaise said, the Jew, Your Majesty. The amazing Jew. There's no better proof because they should be so extinct. They have a language, they have a land, and the Aliyah was ridiculous. I'm going to bring up some prophecies, and you're going to see that they were fulfilled And you're going to be like, no way. This is ridiculous. This could not happen. This is beyond human understanding. I can't even wrap my mind around it. God did it. It's proof in our lifetime. Some of our lifetimes. 67. I was born at 59. It happened in our lifetime. And it's still happening today. Praise God. So next week is going to be a humdinger. If you can't come, watch online. If you can't watch online, watch another time. You know what our copyright is, right? Your right to copy. No fee. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. And may the Lord lift up his very countenance on you and give you peace in the name of the Prince of Peace, Yeshua. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha Yor Adonai pano v'elecha v'hunecha Yisa Adonai pano v'elecha v'yasem lecha Shalom. Shavuot tomorrow, 10 o'clock. See you in the morning.